In breaking news, don't vote for ActionSA. My t-shirt has nothing to do with my opinion. And welcome back to DA Shot. And with me today is a non-DA supporter. Welcome, Ramon.
My name is Zelensky, but thank you. All the way from the Ukraine.
Glad to have you with me on today's show. So unlike Ukraine, the city of Johannesburg may look like a war zone, but it actually hasn't been through a war, unlike your city. But what it has been through a war of personalities. I don't know if you've seen of recent, but ActionSA has been responsible for killing the coalition in Johannesburg. They clearly thought that the ANC ship pile was a much better opposition party in power than they were. So what's your opinion?
Well, let's give the context here. So the Speaker of Johannesburg was removed, and in his place is the COPE member that's gone rogue for some reason. And as we are recording, the Mayor of Johannesburg has been removed in favor of the ANC candidate for mayor. So you might be thinking to yourself, but there's a coalition agreement, there's a minority party coalition holding it all together. What on earth happened? Well, it's very simply the Patriarch Alliance voted against their alliance partners. But the Patriarch Alliance is maybe not to blame in this instance, because ActionSA has done the unthinkable, where they attack their coalition partners without merit.
Provocation.
Yeah.
I think the only provocation that ActionSA needs these days is just that their coalition partners are the DA. And I don't know, DA didn't like the amount of underhanded envelopes in the former DA mayor's desk that were being given out to his EFF chums. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he just is really upset that John Steenhuisen wouldn't buy him a McDonald's. Maybe he just really wanted a Happy Meal, and without that Happy Meal, he's now there to sabotage any future coalition agreements in any of the metros around South Africa. Bit of a shame. I think we interviewed Herman Mashaba. Well, I interviewed Herman Mashaba. I really wanted to like the guy, to be honest. I really, really did. But after getting bored at an hour and a half of bullshit talking, really kind of got the opinion that ActionSA is nothing more than just a giant dig at the DA. And unfortunately, this kind of seems to cement it. What's your opinion?
Yeah, so I thought let us go through the tweets by Michael Beaumont, otherwise known as Boss Beaumont. He runs the entire party of ActionSA. Herman Mashaba is largely a figurehead. And let's see what his reasons are. So he says, he can see that the DA is trying to distract South Africans from the truth about the coalition in Johannesburg. So according to him, blah, 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 blah. There's unhealthy balance in the coalition because the DA had both the executive and the legislature. And because of certain issues, they couldn't go back within that particular agreement. So when there was a vacancy for speaker, because the ACDP and IFP's rogue councillors voted to remove the speaker, Michael Beaumont says the coalition, all of them except for the DA, said the speaker should come from the IFP. And apparently based on the fact that everyone agreed except for the DA on this proposal, the Patriarch Alliance voted with the ANC. So therefore, according to Michael Beaumont, the DA is to blame for collapsing the coalition in Johannesburg. But there's a huge but here. We have the coalition agreement between all of the opposition parties within Johannesburg. But before we go to that, Byron, what do you think of his explanation for what went wrong?
So correct me if I'm wrong, ActionSA got like 10% of the votes, something like that. But they were like the fourth largest party in the elections, obviously behind ANC, DA, EFF, and then ActionSA. Was that right?
So just to confirm, the DA got 480,000 votes roughly, and the ActionSA got half of that, about 250, 260.
apparently you get less votes but get more power. I mean, I think these guys have been sipping on the ANC juju, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's a little bit screwy because seeing as we actually have in our possession the actual agreement they signed with all their coalition partners, which says, here's all the jobs you're going to have, and these are all the places they're going to. And then it does say, well, if you don't like it needs the unanimous decision of everyone. And once that decision has been reached by everyone, maybe we can consider moving it. So obviously they went and sought everybody's opinion, and not everybody agreed with ActionSA. So
Yeah. So here it is in front of you. Here is the agreement signature page where it has been signed by, I assume that is Herman Mashaba. That's his name next to the signature. And importantly, it says, and this is a very important element of it, the conflict resolution mechanism. If there's a conflict, you use the very agreement that you sign to solve that conflict. That is why contracts are there for a particular reason. They are in place to prevent things from happening outside of the contract. So the contract says all the parties must agree to the changes. All right, and if you don't agree to the changes, here's the conflict resolution mechanism. If all the parties agree to give the IFP speaker, except for the DA, then you're not abiding by the agreement, right? Because the DA is a party to this particular agreement. Some people might think, all the DA had to do was share power, man. All the DA had to do was just agree with the rest of the coalition. No, all the DA had to do was abide by the contract that they signed, which seems to be the case.
So here's the problem, right? If you go, these people that go, well, share power, man, share power, peace and love, just share it around. How many times are you going to change the agreement? You got like 4 years of this shit, man. Like, if they're doing this within this first 10 months, and this isn't the first time they pulled this crap, if they're doing it within the first 10 months, what's going to happen at year 2, year 3, year 4, getting closer to the elections, shilling power? Like, it's just not going to work. So what the DA has sought to do is go, look, we're looking to 2024, where coalition governments is probably going to be the norm. And at that point in time, we need to know that if we form a national government, we know that we have put an agreement in place and the country has a form of stability going forward. Otherwise, I hate to say it, Ramon, you might not even like me for saying it, the ANC might be right. If they can't get this right, you're better off just having an ANC government where there's a single party in control, even if that party is just complete arse. Because the uncertainty and the problems that this causes is like this. You can't be changing seats every 2 minutes because you're like, hey, this week I fancy being the speaker. That could be fun. Let's do that. Like, you can't do it. And that's what the DA has been trying to say. But I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know either. And we might know after a short commercial break. And we are back from the break. And fundamentally, here is the problem. Here is the problem. The IFP got 17 or 14,000 votes in Johannesburg. They did not think of putting themselves up as speaker. The ActionSA people said that IFP should become speaker. But the IFP has signed the agreement, and there was no indication from the IFP that they wanted to be speaker in the first place. ActionSA just wanted them to be speaker to make things more equal, but that equality is not reflected in the conditions of the agreement signed by Action South Africa. So I don't know, Byron. Like, I'm just gonna be honest here. I think it's a bullshit ploy by ActionSA to try and make the DA look arrogant, and maybe the DA is arrogant. I don't really care. But an agreement is an agreement. And if all the parties of the agreement don't agree on the variation, that agreement will therefore stand as is. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's funny because the one thing that Herman's kept saying to me on my interview with him, which is why I'm calling it Action Piss Essay, because I think it's a giant piss up. And the reason I say that is because the one thing Herman kept saying throughout his entire interview with me is that the sole purpose of ActionSA is to remove ANC from power. Well, the pricks just handed Johannesburg back to the ANC on a silver platter. So I'm sorry to say, if your sole reason for existing is to remove ANC from power, you fucked up, mate. You fucked up.
Yeah, and I don't think you can blame arrogance for that. Maybe the DA is arrogant. I don't know. Maybe they are. Who cares? Right? If you own a company and there are 100 shares and the DA owns 40% of those shares and you as ActionSA own 20% of the shares and everyone else owns like a sliver of the shares, you can't do fuck all until the bigger shareholder decides otherwise. That is
Correct.
simple politics. It's simple business. It's simple common sense. You can change or try to change things as much as possible. If the DA doesn't want to change, it's not going to change because they are the biggest party in that agreement. I mean, it is simple as that. Call him arrogant, call him whatever, but that is the final principle here, and the only principle that should matter.
And you would have thought that the supposed CEO of a former big company would know that, right? I mean, I'm sure he had shareholders and investors, but apparently not. Apparently it's all about communist equality. So, yeah, my hopes and dreams of ActionSA are pretty much in the dumpster. And having met our good man, Trump Steenhuisen, I know where my vote is in future, mate, regardless of whatever else. So
Yeah,
it's a shame, but
it's for the Freedom Plus, hey, Byron.
you know what I mean, man. Like Freedom Front Plus, ACDP. Maybe I'll vote for EFF, mate. Never know.
No. So I got a recommendation for voting. Don't vote for ActionSA. This is the third time they've tried to pull the wool over our eyes. They screwed over the independent power stuff in Pretoria. They did this, and most importantly, they tried to get rid of the Joburg city manager before he was even elected, and they were successful in that. So this is third time lucky, my friends. Third time. Number one, we can excuse. Number two, we can be angry. But number three, there's no turning back. There is no return whatsoever. If someone fucks you over 3 times and you're still with that person, you're a moron.
Yeah, I think, jokes aside, I think that ActionSA have just proven themselves to be an unreliable coalition partner. And that's what I'd take from it. Yeah, you might want to side with them in the national elections to get the ANC out of power, but I think everybody's now seeing that any coalition agreement you have with these guys is going to be short-lived. It's going to be short-term, and it's not really going to work, man. You can't play musical chairs in government every 3 seconds. You know, as much as I dislike Cyril, man, I really dislike that guy. But one thing you can say is he's been very stable with his cabinet. That guy doesn't even change musical chairs like these guys are trying to do. And you kind of need that when you run government. So,
yeah.
So sorry, guys, it's just not for us.
And who are you more likely to believe? The DA, who have coalition government since 2006, starting in Cape Town, and were successful with them, or a new upstart that really hates the DA and tries to, wherever it is in place with the DA, there are problems. I'd rather go with the people who have the experience rather than a new upstart that thinks otherwise.
Yeah, for me, I'll go with the guys that haven't been also classed as the EFF's mayor. I'll go with them.
So our only conclusion to all of this, ladies and gentlemen, don't vote for ActionSA, vote for Freedom Front Plus, because you're safe with them.
Vote for ACDP. Come on, man. In any case, thanks DA for paying me for this chill.
Well, oh, okay, no, sorry. That wasn't supposed to be the end video. Bye, bye, bye.